Thank you so much, everyone, for coming tonight. This is really so touching and amazing that there's like so many people here. This is a sold-out event. So thank you so much. Yeah, all that like social media bombardment and flooding your inboxes really works. So yeah, thank you so much for tolerating us for the last few weeks. So we're just gonna get started. And I guess before we go into like the real reason you all came here, we're just gonna spend a few minutes to just talk about ourselves a little bit and just introduce our team and then also why we actually put this event together. So my name is Jelaine Santiago, and over here,
Jerome Gagnon.
always think you can repeat his name. And then over in the back somewhere, we've got Rona, and we've got Lauren. You want to say hi? Yeah, and together we are Cambio Market. So Cambio Market, we're the organizers of this event. So thankful for all of you to be here. And before we actually kind of go into the main meat of the night, we wanted to take a few minutes to just talk about why we're actually doing this event. Why are we here to talk about fair trade, fashion, and Philippines in the first place? And in order to do that, we really need to go back a little bit and backtrack towards why Philippines in the first place. So, for those of you who don't know, I'm Filipina. I was actually born in Malolos in Bulacan. How many of you, is anyone else from Bulacan? Mom and dad? My sister over there. Yeah, anyone else? Anyone know where that is? Philippines? Yeah? There's someone over there? Cool. Yeah, so I was born in Bulacan, and we came to Canada when I was really young. Me and my whole family moved to Canada when I was less than 3 years old. And even though I grew up in a very Filipino household, like I grew up eating pancit, and I grew up eating turon, and like ube ice cream and everything. Well, maybe not ube ice cream, but ube. I grew up, feeling proud to be Filipino, but not really understanding what that really means. I was very, my parents would speak to us in Tagalog and we'd answer them in English, as many of you kind of might be able to relate to. And so even though, I loved being part of, a very Filipino family, I wasn't really connected to the Filipino community outside of my immediate household. And so for the longest time, I didn't really identify with being Filipina until we went back to the Philippines in 2012. For our family trip, and Jerome came along with us, with my family. He was very popular over there, especially with the younger cousins. And so there was just something that going back to my hometown and going back to the house where my parents lived and where I was born, there was just something that was really powerful that awoke this sense in me that there was something missing about my understanding of myself and my own identity that I didn't really know was missing in my life. And so that trip really awoke this need for me to kind of want to dig in deeper, to want to understand a little bit more about what it is to be Filipina. What is Filipino heritage? What is Filipino culture even, or this idea of Filipino community? How is that different? And so that really inspired so much of my own journey in terms of trying to understand the Philippines and trying to understand myself. But at the same time, what was really surprising is that being in Philippines also kickstarted mine and Jerome's journey into being entrepreneurs as well. So.
So, when we came back from that first trip in Philippines, we started doing research about what was happening in Philippines, what were the type of businesses. We were just really curious about the country. I have lived a little bit in San Francisco, in California, in the Silicon Valley, so where a lot of innovative company, startup and bigger tech company like Apple, Google, they all work towards the same goal, technology. And it's like a hub where all those companies are all centered at the same place and work toward the same goal using innovation. What I started noticing about Philippines is, there's something there. It sounds like a Silicon Valley, but in Philippines, except a bit different. There's a lot of very young and innovative startup, innovative company, but they actually want to make a difference in the world. They actually want to alleviate poverty in Philippines. They want to do good. This is what's called a social enterprise. It's a business that does good. And I was very, very impressed by that. So just to give you a few examples of companies we found, there's Good Paper. Good Paper makes those greeting cards. We have them at the pop-up. They're very nice, very cute, funny. You know, that's kind of nice. Very romantic as well. So they have all those beautiful cards. Those cards are actually handmade by a woman rescued from sex trafficking in Manila. It's a way of giving them training and reintegration into society in Philippines. So that's an amazing company. And then, you know, there's those amazing bags from AKABA. We found those great products. You know, very nice bags, very fashionable. But it's hand woven using indigenous weaving techniques, very old techniques, and made in very far communities of the Philippines, and some in Mindanao as well. Another product, Olivia and Diego, they do those great jewelry, very colorful. It's actually made of upcycled t-shirts. So t-shirts from landfill that would have been going to the landfill that have been recycled, upcycled into very nice jewelry. That jewelry is handmade by a woman rescued from sex trafficking in Davao, in Philippines. So there's always this aspect, great product, very nice, very fashionable, but very good cause behind it. And that's, you know, that's something that really impressed us as we were researching Philippines.
Yeah, it impressed us so much actually that it inspired us to make our own social business, which is Cambio Market. Yay. So with Cambio Market, so Jerome and I are the founders. We started our business together in 2015. We both just, you know, it was kind of the right timing. We both quit our jobs, didn't really like it, didn't really know what to do. And we're like, you know what, we've been wanting to do this for a really long time. We know these really amazing brands in the Philippines. Like we should just do something with this knowledge because these stories and these products are just so amazing. Like the world should really know about them. So that's why we started Cambio Market. It was really this idea of sharing these stories and sharing these products with people, you know, in Toronto, in Vancouver, in Canada. There's someone who has their products in like Halifax, which is so amazing that there's someone wearing Filipino-made things in Nova Scotia. And you know, and so we created Cambio Market with really this idea of change, both changing what it means to be a business, because I think there's more to being a business than making money, that you can be a successful business without, you know, exploiting people, that you can actually be a brand that empowers communities and lifts people up rather than pushing them down. And that's really what we are based on, is this idea of changing what it means to be a business, but also changing how people perceive the Philippines. So most of my knowledge growing up, and I feel like even people, younger Filipinos that I talk to, a lot of them kind of know very limited information about the Philippines. Like it's pretty beaches, and you know, we have Pacquiao, and we have, what else is there? Like delicious Filipino food, which is very true. But at the same time, there's so much, there's this hidden side of the Philippines that is still so undiscovered that so many people don't know. And that's really what we want to do, is change how people, especially how Filipinos themselves perceive their own country, and really value the talent and just the innovation coming out of this like beautiful country that we have. And so our journey with Cambio Market really took us to so many places. We visited different communities. We got to see, you know, how people live. We got to meet our artisans and, you know, learn how they make our products. We got to do interviews with them, and they were so welcoming and welcomed us into their homes, even though my Tagalog is just so awful, and they were still really nice to me. And they shared their stories with us, you know, and that was such an amazing experience to be able to do that, and to also just be welcomed into this part of the world that I had really no business being in. And at the same time, one of the most impactful things is also the fact that we got to meet so many amazing and inspiring entrepreneurs. So entrepreneurs who are, you know, most of them are actually really, really young, and who are just really passionate about creating positive change and creating a new way of doing business. And we've had the privilege to meet so many during our travels.
So during one of those travel, We went for a business meeting. We were just meeting a potential business partner. You know, just normal. Just like a normal meeting you would have in Toronto. We leave the meeting, and there's this guy who just shows up. He just shows up, and he knows our name. It's extremely weird. He's like, "Hey guys, I want you to sell my bag in Canada." We were not even selling bag at the time. Like, it's extremely weird. Someone was really pushy. Like, but it was good. That was good. Like, we saw the bags. He gave us 2 bags. That was very nice. And he's like, you know, travel with that bag. Try it out. If you like it, go sell it in Canada. We're like, okay, let's try that at least. So, but the more we got to talk with that person, we were very inspired. It's someone who's very young, someone who's just working part-time onto that social business. They're making bags using indigenous weaving techniques, working all over Philippines. We were so impressed. And then in the last 2 years, it's been booming. They're about to open stores all in 7 locations, 7 malls in the Philippines. They've been winning many awards in Asia. So things have been booming, and we're just so thankful that he told us, "Oh, I'm coming to Toronto." I'm like, "That's great. We can finally share that story that passionate us to you guys. We want to share that story." And this is the story of EJ Mariano, who's a social entrepreneur. He's 24 years old, and he has this amazing company. And here's the stage to you, man.
Wow. So yeah, that was true. I just kind of popped out of nowhere, and I'm like, "Hi, I know who you guys are. You're Jillian and Jerome, and you guys own Cambio and sell my stuff, please." That's how it was. Hello, there's so many of you and just one of me. This is weird. I was expecting. So before I get into this, don't start my timer yet. That's not fair. So before I get into this, so I found out like maybe 3-4 weeks ago that I was going to Toronto. Actually, I bought my ticket like 2 weeks before I left. And then they said, "Okay, cool, we'll plan a big thing." So I guess I missed the big part. I was expecting like 10 people, I was telling them. And then they told me, "Oh my God, we sold 90 tickets. What are you talking about?" I know. We might have been having this conversation over like beer somewhere, but like somewhere in Manila, I guess. But yeah, and I'm here, and there's 100 of you. And yeah, let's go. So how does this work? Hi. Yeah. So I'm from AKABA. My name's EJ, so that's just an E and a J, nothing fancy really. I mean, we can go all biblical. My full name is Emmanuel Joseph. Yeah, so that's 2 biblical figures and like 1 person. I don't know. So need to get exercise. So I'm here to actually talk about my favorite topic, which is myself. Yes, you guys paid $20 to see me talk about myself, which I can go on about the entire hour. But yeah. It's an intro, trust me, I was kidding. I'm not going to talk about myself, even if I could. So I graduated in the Philippines with a degree in international relations, European studies to be exact, and I was supposed to go to law school. And then I guess I dropped it all to do whatever it is that I'm doing now. But on the side, I was also a radio jock, and I was doing a couple of TV stints back in the Philippines. And I was doing that for 6 years. I started when I was in high school, and then off till I graduated college, and then that was another option I had to get into showbiz and be popular and all that stuff. But you know, I mean, I realized that after doing 6 years, I needed something else, which was purpose, which is basically why I'm doing what I'm doing now. And that too, that was part of my job really. So I was a professional party goer, and again, I let that go. And also on the side, I had a clothing business back in the university. So there was this licensing deal that I got. My school is the Ateneo de Manila University, if some of you are familiar with that. It's a Jesuit school back in Manila, and I would make these jackets and T-shirts and everything, and I would sell them back at school. And after getting out of the university, I worked for the family business, Candy Mix. It's a candy store. We used to have 16 branches. Now we have 80 plus. Mainly because of my amazing parents over here. And we were able to scale that in the past 2 years that I was working for them. But yeah, bottom line, I was born and raised in the Philippines. So I'm a proud Filipino, and I always get that. Your English is so good. Like, oh yeah, we don't live in hut, so. Okay, so yeah, proud Filipino. So what do you guys know about the Philippines? I see a couple hands earlier. Who's been to the Philippines? That's 25%. Oh my gosh, I hope, could you just whisper to your partners just in case I make a reference that they don't understand? Okay, because there's a lot of pop culture references. Who here is at least half Filipino? Oh no, not a lot of people. Okay, you guys should get on TFC. TFC, the Filipino channel. There's a lot of references you might not get. So if you don't get it, just raise your hand and I will gladly explain how it works. So the Philippines is known for beaches. Number one popular destination, at least, is Palawan, Coron, Puerto Princesa. I'm sure you heard of that. Boracay, probably one of the most beautiful beaches I've ever been to, and the many that I have been. And this is our city, Manila. So from afar, it actually looks pretty nice. But you know, please don't zoom in. Don't attempt to do that. And if you go to bars, San Miguel beer, raise your hands. Yeah, there you go. Best shit in the world. And we have the biggest indoor coliseum in the entire planet. So that's the Philippine Arena. And you guys have seen this at some point. Like probably a collective 150 million views on YouTube, The Dancing Inmate. So that's what we're known for. And this lady over here won a Tony Award. Lea Salonga, world-class entertainment, world-class beauty queens as well. Pia Wurtzbach, my queen. World-class athletes, Manny Pacquiao, and only in the Philippines, legislator, Senator now, Senator Pacquiao. I didn't vote for him, just to put it out there. And we're also known for this guy. I'm not even gonna talk about him. I'll just put him there. I'm sure you all have your own personal opinion. So, wait, on the topic of presidents, this guy, yeah, let's all agree. That's one thing your head of state has. He's you guys know the word guapo. Yeah, okay, so he's guapo. Yeah, I'll talk about one more thing that I like that's Canadian. Yeah, that. So Tim Hortons just opened at the Philippines like a couple weeks back, and the lines are really crazy. So down here, they're like a dime a dozen, and they're amazing. I don't know if you guys take Tim Hortons for granted, but you know that's the thing in the Philippines right now. So it is more fun in the Philippines, isn't it? To those who've been there, and to those that have been hearing me talk at least for the past few minutes. But this is another side of the Philippines that you're not seeing. This is extreme poverty. This is Smoky Mountain. So we have this big-ass landfill that's just a big mountain where they do a lot of burning. It's literally called Smoky Mountain, well, because that's what it is. It's a smoky mountain. And we have really poor infrastructure. Every 5 minutes of rain, we get like 1 foot of like flood. You know, so like go do the math with like an hour of rain, and shoo, it actually happened to our house a few years back. And to those that are updated with recent events, Marawi, siege in Marawi, yeah, that's pretty bad as well. And what about this? Extrajudicial killings, anybody? Not a fan, personally. I think that's one thing I stand for. I'm absolutely not for it. So I'll throw it back again. Is it more fun in the Philippines then? Is it? With all this happening? Right, so what I've learned is that the Philippines is a place of extremes. So you have the extremely rich and you have the extremely poor. And then you have us little minions floating in the middle class. Well, I'd say it is yes and no. It is more fun in the Philippines if and when you have the economic opportunity to actually do something fun or do something for yourself. And when you don't, it's really shitty to be a Filipino and to be a poor Filipino. It's really bad, right? So yeah, it can be more fun. But I'm gonna ask you. I'm gonna throw it at you guys. What is Filipino? What is? Is it all of these pretty beaches? Is being Filipino like tied to Manny Pacquiao or Charisse Bembenko or Jake Zyrus? That's how she goes by now. Is it just that? Is it just that? You know? Is it what we see on TV? Okay, I'll make a more updated reference to those who get it. So this is Rico Yan and Claudine Barreto. But to the Filipinos, this is a fairly more recent pop culture. I'm not gonna try to explain it again, but this is John Lloyd and Bea, and they're really popular, and they have a ton of movies showing left and right, and this is what they show to the rest of the world. These are the kind of movies that they produce to represent the Filipinos. And like you said, it is food, so it is a lot of things, really. It's all these good stuff and bad things as well, and bad events, but also good events. But you know, I have an answer to that. It's not very popular, but I'll just say values, right? Being Filipino means a strong sense of family, and over there is my family, and that's just my dad's side. That's a lot of people. Jerome took that photo from afar. And he had to probably squeeze in a lot of people, so that's like 60 plus. And that's like half of it off of my dad's side. But 2 weeks ago, we were in Vegas, and that's my mom's side. And that's not even everybody yet. So we have a really strong sense of family, right? A strong sense of obligation. You got to do something for the little guy. You got to do something for the underprivileged. It's your obligation, and not just your obligation, it's your obligation as a Filipino in general. Or at least that's how we want it to be. And that's how it was before, but not anymore, right? And like I said, a strong sense of community is not just family, right? To those half Filipinos in here, to those that were raised in here, I bet you guys are like, you guys go nuts when your mom takes you to those Filipino-Canadian gatherings. But yeah, it's actually a thing, right? And quite literally, Filipinos are all over the place, right? So here in Toronto, I've met a lot. So if there's a strong sense of commitment, if there's a strong sense of family and community, and providing for that little guy and providing opportunities to the underprivileged, how come made in the Philippines is such a bad thing? Right? Well, at least from my standpoint, all of these things are the things that tourists buy that say made in the Philippines. And these things are not ethically produced, not ethically sourced, and it's just stamped there. It's made in the Philippines, and that's what you take home, and that's what you hand to your friends and to your teachers, to your neighbors. And unfortunately, that's how it is. Right, so everything's eroding so far, not just like in terms of that. There's also this guy again ruining like our public image. So people think that the Filipinos are like bloodthirsty people. I lost count of the number of times I got shit for our president. Like, I travel a lot, and the first thing an immigration officer asks me is like, "How's your president?" No, I cannot. Like, I do not. Or a taxi driver in Singapore, or like a restaurant server in Malaysia. That's all I get. How's your president? Are they killing off everybody in the Philippines? That's not the Philippines that I know, and that's not the Philippines that I want to promote. See? So with what I do, at least, I want to present the Philippines that I know and love, the Philippines that I want to promote, the Philippines that I want you guys to know, right? So before I get into the actual presentation, so I was in San Francisco like a couple weeks back, and our car got broken into, so the presentation is not going to be as pretty. So like, I'm a designer, so like I like everything like proportional and everything. So it's not as pretty as it was supposed to be, but the content's pretty much still there. So AKABA is a fashion brand that bridges cultural heritage and modern lifestyles, right? So our mission really is to bridge community-based artisans. So these are people that are working in barangays. So I don't know how to translate that, but like a small village, basically. And then they make all these crafts and everything, and then they sell them on the cheap. And then you have middlemen that sell it for like thrice the price, but they really just get like not much. So we want to bridge that to the global market. And not just the global market. We want to take their stories with us as well. So our vision really is to take Filipino craftsmanship and artistry to the forefront, right? We want to change any pre-existing connotations you have of made in the Philippines. We want to change that. You know how people buy bags and it just has Paris stamped all over it? Or Milan? We want the Philippines to be like that. So buy something from the Philippines, not only is it well made, expensive, it's also fair trade. And style as well. So before I get into the actual meat, I just want to explain the business part. Why bags? So the bags worldwide is a $6.5 billion industry, and it's growing. And it has seen a steady growth. So we wanted to get into there. That, and also I'm a heavy traveler. So like traveling a lot. So, when you start a business, you do something that you actually like benefit from. So I've never bought a bag in the past 4 years. So that's pretty cool too. We also have a social value chain, which I'll get into later. How do we actually make social impact, and how do we measure that social impact? That's very important. With any social entrepreneur that you meet, please always do ask, so how do you measure your impact? And I'll explain later why you have to do that. And we also want to develop the market for Filipino weaves. So if you look at the landscape, at least for hand-woven and handcrafted fabric all over the world, it's usually South America and Africa that gets like the top spot. Now, I'm not saying I'm going to take that top spot. All I'm saying is I want to move the Philippines up maybe a couple notches up. So what do we do really? So we have good quality and timeless design, as you guys can see over there. And feel free to inspect it. Please do. Oh, is Herschel Canadian? Is it? Is Herschel Canadian? I think Herschel's Canadian. So I guess that's a third Canadian thing I like. So there's Herschel and Jansport that do that, at least in the competitive landscape of bags. Tom's does that as well. So they make bags and they make shoes. But on top of that is the social value. So Tom's has this 1+1 business model. So where do we stand in the sea of Herschel, Tumi, Jansport, Tom's, and everybody else that does bags? We have our cultural value over here. So let's get to that later. But for now, just run-of-the-mill business stuff. So this is how things were before we actually came in. So you have weavers that are, well, usually in the Philippines, they're above the age of 60. So they're a very vulnerable demographic. And when healthcare isn't actually a thing in your country, you know, being 60 and jobless and not having a lot of money is actually a bad thing, right? So that's the demographic of the weaver. And usually the local traders buy it off at like rock bottom prices. So for discussion's sake, let's just say the local trade, actually this is true. So the local trader would buy it for sell it for $10, but would buy it from the weaver for around $2, $2 Canadian, right? And that's how it is all over the Philippines. And in my travels all over Southeast Asia, I realized that's how it is in Southeast Asia, period. And then they just sell it to the general public. So where do we come in? We start with the weavers. We do our research. How much does it actually cost to live wherever you are? Usually we base it off at like minimum wage, right? So the government has this indicator called minimum wage, which basically dictates like how much money you need to make to have a decent living. And that's also adjusted based on the number of kids you have. So we get the minimum wage, and at the same time we get the market price, because sometimes the market price is higher than the minimum wage. So for example, there's this certain piece of fabric, and I'll talk to you guys about it over there if you see me by the table. It's actually like $20 per square. They sell it for $20 per square, and the traders would get it for $1.50. So what we did was we went directly to the weavers, and we paid them just $20 flat out. And it just doesn't stop there. So aside from giving them income, we also provide financial assistance for the education of their children, right? So there's absolutely no excuse to not send your kids to school. So you're making money, and we're basically paying for your child's education, so you gotta work, and at the same time, you gotta keep sending your kids to school. And we also provide them access to basic health care. So we pay for the checkups of their kids. So again, public health care in the Philippines is not very good. I know everything here is like free or something, but like back home, absolutely not. You better be dead or dying to get something free from the government. So yeah, you have to pay for that in the Philippines, like basic postnatal health care, amongst other things, since we deal with a lot of women. So that's one thing that we do. And then over here in the processing and manufacturing, we've actually like hijacked some people off of like factories of high-end brands in the Philippines, which I don't want to name. But yeah, they have a lot of those, and they make under like $5 a day, right? And then we have them make our bags instead, and we provide them housing up in the city, and at the same time we give them travel allowance, and then yeah, we also fund the education of their children, and we give them access to basic health care. So we start from the weavers, and then we get to the manufacturer and the manufacturing, the processing, and then there's you guys. So one thing that we want to instill in all of our customers is there has to be a multiplying effect, right? Our customers need to be proud. Our customers need to know the story of the things that we make. That way, whenever they talk about their bag, and I'm like, well, you know, when you get a compliment for your bag, there's not much to say, is there? Wow, where'd you get your bag? Oh, I got it on a shopping trip off at Paris, or like I was in Beverly Hills and I bought this bag. In a way, part of customers are part of our social impact, because if people ask you, where'd you get your stuff and how is it made, there's so much stories to tell. So back to our social impact, we build weaving communities first and foremost. So this is our first weaving community. This is in Ilocos Norte. Raise your hands if you're Ilocano. Well, my family is Ilocano, and over there at the back. So that actually was my first exposure to weaving, because we'd have hand-woven blankets at home, and they would show me how it's made, and I automatically assumed, I guess, when I was young that it would cost a fortune because it's really hard to make, right? So when I did my research, apparently not. So that's where I just felt like I had to do something about it. So we gathered the village members in this Gawat Kalinga village. So Gawat Kalinga is an NGO that provides free housing for the poorest of the poor in the Philippines. You guys can look them up. It's gk1world.com, and that's something my family is also heavily involved in as well. And then we provided them the necessary skills training needed and the raw materials for them to start weaving, and then we integrated them to our supply chain. So what are the highlights really? So from unemployment, or basically unemployed, to a stable, steady, and equitable income. That's one thing. So a lot of our weavers have reached the age of 40 or 50 without having a stable job, ever. So, you know, I mean, that's nuts, that's crazy. So how do you get to that age? Well, extreme poverty in the Philippines does that to you, and that's absolutely possible in our country. So from low-skilled to just cleaning the house and just probably planting a few crops on the side for sustenance farming, to actually being technically skilled. So that's another change. And of course, the educational and healthcare assistance is there. So just to put things into perspective, this is my country, the Philippines. And this is where we started, way up north. And then we worked our way down to Sulu. Sulu is a hot security hotspot in the Philippines. That's actually where separatist movements are based in the Philippines, and that's where a branch of the ISIS caliphate was like set up. So yeah, and I would make trips down there. I know I risked my neck for my work. That's actually pretty cool. And then we also support weaving communities as well. So it's not all the time that we come in there and try to teach people how to do it. There are also some communities that actually just exist already and just need like that little push financially to make what they do sustainable. So we come in, we get to meet them and stuff, and we get to check out what they're doing. Again, we do our research. What's the market rate? How much do you need to make? How much can we give you? And then we kind of work on them with design as well. So part of the thing of being a business is at the end of it all, you have to make something that's like commercially viable. You can't just shove something down the market's throat. It has to be something that the market likes. So let's go back here. So this is an example of how you multiply the income. So if you guys haven't noticed, we address their needs in 3 different ways. So first is their income. Second is their educational assistance, and part of it is also skills training, and then healthcare. So that's a threefold impact for us. So in terms of income, like I said earlier, so this is for Isabela. So it's another province in the Ilocos Norte. I think our receptionist up front is from Isabela, and I was talking to her about it. The market rate is 300 pesos, so that's roughly 10 Canadian dollars. I think, what's the exchange rate now? I'm still stuck to like 30 pesos to $1, so just correct me later. So it's I think it's roughly $10. And then the weaver would actually just get less than 10% of that, because they have to finance for the raw materials. So again, what we do is we pay them the 300 in full, but at the same time, we provide for the raw materials. So the entire 300 pesos just comes into direct income. So let's run through these weaves one by one. This is Inabel from Isabela. This is Kinamay from Abra. It's a mountain province in the Philippines. And this one is produced by an ethnic minority in the Philippines. It's produced by the Mangyans in Oriental Mindoro, just right off the top of Palawan. It's in between Batangas and Palawan, for those familiar. This is Sinuluan from Basilan. It's produced by the Yakans. Again, Basilan is another hotspot for separatist movements, and I do make my trips there every now and then. It's an hour boat ride, and it's the scariest boat ride you'll ever take. No, I'm not kidding. So whenever I go there, I fly into Zamboanga. I don't tell anyone. Well, now my parents know, but they didn't know before. I feel like they could have stopped me. But yeah, so I get to Zamboanga, and then I meet my police escorts, so there's 6 of them. They give me a hat so I can blend in as Muslim so I don't get kidnapped. And we take a 45-minute pump boat ride to Isabela City in Basilan. I meet my weavers, and then I go back the same day. So this is Bungasama from Zamboanga, and then Pisyabit from Sulu. So all of these are available there. Yeah, we can talk about it on the side, please. But again, we have limited time. So let's go back to the company itself, and a lot of it, and why we we decided to go about with the company is our personal journeys. All four co-founders, and I think it would be best if I just talked about mine. And I hope we do have the opportunity to do this again with the rest of my co-founders. So like I said, I was born and raised in the Philippines, and 2 things that my family are very tied to is, first, on my father's side, is they're proudly Ilocano, like GI. That's a thing, genuine Ilocano. You know, they have like an association here in Toronto, and like my tito, my uncle over there is like president. That's a thing, apparently. So they're proudly Ilocano, and again, that's where my initial exposure from hand-woven fabric was. And then second is my mother's side. My mom's sister is Rose Isada Cabrera. She's the co-founder of GK Gawad Kalinga USA. And what she would do is would raise funds in the States from wealthy Filipino Americans and channel it to the Philippines to build houses for the poorest of the poor. So the mission is 7,000 communities, 70,000 homes in 7 years for the Philippines. So I think they hit like their 80% mark like a few years back. So I put 2 and 2 together. So again, my being Ilocano, and I'm quite fond of that place, really. I find myself there every summer. And my Gawad Kalinga exposure, again through my mom's side of the family. And yeah, I wanted to do something that would honor both sides, which is first, honor my Ilocano heritage, and then second, honor the Gawad Kalinga work of those in my family. So four of us started this thing. That's me over there on the right, maybe 20 pounds lighter, because that was 3 years ago. And that's Daniel. This is Alex, and this is Christine. So we got this thing started like fresh out of college. Again, all four of us wanted to go to law school. Christine's actually the only one who actually went. Right, so we took the exams and everything, and we were making our choices. Where do I go? What do I do next? And then I just realized, because I wanted to be a lawyer for the poor. Like I wanted to be like a public assistance, public attorneys. I want to be a lawyer for the public attorney's office, right? So I wanted to settle cases for land grabbing, because that's the thing in the Philippines, right? So if you're poor, what some people do is like come up with like these fake land titles and just grab your land, and that's it, right? And you don't have money for like a lawyer or for any form of legal assistance. So that's what I wanted to do. And then I realized like I didn't want to waste like 5 years of my life reading books, or just sitting down for 5 years of my life reading books and just basically not doing anything, and wait for 5 years to do wait for another 5 years to actually do something. And at the same time, I had to give up this job because first it wasn't a very healthy environment. So as you know, being a radio jock comes with like a lot of stuff, like, you know, hosting parties and going to these events where you're kind of forced to drink alcohol, you know, all that stuff, and all your sponsors. It really wasn't my thing, and it stopped being my thing because I was doing it for 6 years. I had to do something else. So before we graduated, the management majors in my posse, so there's 4 of us, had this idea. They had this requirement in school to set up a business, and they set up a bag business. To the Filipinos over here, that's Nadine Lustre on my right, at least, and that's Sarah Carlos. So they're actually like very famous celebrities now, and they were my friends back then. Well, they still are. And then after we graduated, like I felt like it was a pretty good idea. It was working. It made some money. So I took my entire barkada, that's what we call it, group of friends, my entire barkada, and we went up north to Ilocos Norte, and I introduced them to a couple of weavers. So let's see what we can do about that. And that's basically it. So I told them, you know, your bag business has potential. I know some people. Let's add some value. Let's try to make change in the world. And you know what? They said yes to it primarily because all of us were volunteers for Gawad Kalinga already. So actually, what's pretty cool is when you volunteer for Gawad Kalinga, they take you to these sites and you build the houses yourselves. And you build the houses yourselves with the people that will be living in those houses. That's pretty cool. So you were all into it anyway. So we decided to pitch our idea for a couple of funding, and we were doing it on the side. Like Jelaine said when I met her, we were doing it part-time. And we were doing it part-time for a couple of years. Here's a picture of the first ever AKABA bag that came out. Like fresh off the factory, we brought it to a meeting, and look, we have her back. So that's pretty historic. And we started working off my mom's office at the ground floor. Like that, just like that. After work, which is past 6, and with Manila traffic, traffic in the Philippines is really bad. With Manila traffic, they would all get there by 8, even if they're like 5 kilometers away. Yes, that's true. So it's funny when Jelaine and Jerome start like complaining about traffic in Toronto. Like, dude, I'm from the Philippines. I don't know what you're talking about. This is us on a good day. So yeah, so we were working off my mom's ground floor for a couple minutes. For a couple of months, I guess. And then we just kept on pitching the idea to people who wanted to listen to us. So the first people who said yes was Gawad Kalinga, of course, because we were helping out people in their villages. And then the second people who said yes was the British government. So I will forever be grateful to the British Council in the Philippines for providing us our initial funding. And then our home school, Ateneo, the university I was in, also provided us more funding. And then when we went to Indonesia for an international conference and placed over there, that's where we met our investors. So yes, social enterprises are not always cute. Some of them function like actual businesses. That's one stereotype that we're trying to break. Social enterprises are just as businessy as actual businesses are. We still have bills to pay. We have to pay our taxes. We need funding. We need to pay rent. You know, it's not a get out of jail free card and you just tell someone, hey, could you give me a 50% off on your rent because I'm a social enterprise helping the poor. No, it doesn't work that way. So we had to get our investors, that way we could scale. And so just fairly recently, we got awarded by the Bank of the Philippine Islands. It's one of the biggest banks in the Philippines as the most promising social enterprise in the Philippines. And we got additional funding from there. We quit our jobs, went full-time, and ta-da, this is our team. And we're actually a much bigger team. In terms of numbers, we have 107 weavers all over the Philippines. So that's 107 families that we're helping. Some of them have 3 kids. Most of them have 4. Birth control isn't a thing in my country as well. So there. And then we also have our community development partners. So like I said, some of the areas that we help out aren't exactly safe. So as much as I want to visit these places as often as I cannot. First of all, this business cannot lose me or anybody in the co-founding team. Otherwise, so we do have our on-the-ground staff as well that are based in the communities to try to help us out. And these are our multiple industry partners, both in the private sector, the local government, and the international community. And one very important partner we have is Geconomics. So like I said, Gawad Kalinga builds the houses, Geconomics provides the jobs. Right? So in terms of sustainability, with any social infra project that you have to make sure that it continues. So change doesn't start with providing them with houses. So like I said, being poor or being a social enterprise is not a free pass to get out of jail. Like when you give them a house, they have a light bill to pay for. They have a water bill to pay for. They have repairs to pay for. So what do you do after giving them houses? You give them jobs, right? So Assam is one of them. Actually, like my mom just got into it. I guess we just nagged her into it. So my mom's working with a orphanage in Tacloban. If you've heard of Tacloban, that was the city that was ravaged by Haiyan in the 2013 or 2012, and it was damaged really bad, so the whole city was like leveled, right? So my mom's working with an orphanage there to provide income for teenagers living in the orphanage, and they make organic vegetable pasta. That's pretty cool. So they make pasta out of carrots and balunga and amongst other things that they do. So back to the weaving part. So I don't want to be too technical, but I just want to explain how it works, so you guys get the gravity of it. So like to set up a loom, it takes like a week, right? So Jelaine and Jerome, when they visited, they were actually just setting up the loom, right? So there wasn't much weaving going on. So they have to set up the thread one by one. So there's this metal thing over here that you have to put like thread through it one by one. And you have to do that like 2,000 times for you to actually start weaving. So it usually takes them a week. And they don't get paid for that. So that's one thing we changed. So part of the payment actually is for setting up the loom. And there are 2 types of looms. So the one on the left is a shuttle loom, which is basically you sit upright, and then there's a thing in the middle that you just shuttle back and forth, and there's a move. I'll show you a video later. And then this one is a backstrap loom. So the backstrap loom is for the ethnic minorities, the indigenous groups, because those are more traditional. So they have a garter wrapped around their back, and the thing is attached to the wall. So the loom is attached to the wall, and all the tension and all the pressure is on their back. So as they age, actually, the weavers, they kind of just, they kind of slouch over because of all the weaving that they do. Just a little bit more pictures. So this is the community that Jelaine and Jerome visited. This is, again, Gawad Kalinga Namnaman, Lawag City in Ilocos Norte. And this is Nane Liway, and a close-up of the backstrap looms that I was talking about earlier. Okay. Do we have sound support? Okay, it should work. Okay, just pay attention over here. so there it is. So that on the video, that was just one of the 7 communities that we help out all over the Philippines. So that was our first, actually. That's been a baby, and quite frankly, it's been the toughest because, like I said, a lot of them were coming into it not having any work ethic at all. Actually, like in the video, it said that they had 8. Actually, it's just 8 that remained after the initial 30 that we trained. So it wasn't really like as easy as you would think. Doing social impact work in the Philippines isn't as easy as like, I'll give you a job, work hard, and things will be perfect. No, a lot of them deal with a lot of issues. For example, with women, domestic violence. Men get really violent in the Philippines, at least in the communities that we work with, if the women are making much more than the man, amongst other issues that we have to deal with. So it's not as easy as you think. So very briefly, I'll just talk about the future, and this one's really exciting. So if you ever find yourself in the Philippines, in a few weeks we'll be opening up a workshop that's just open for anybody who wants to come in and talk to the people that we work with, talk to our bag makers, see how their bags are made. And that will be open in a couple weeks, actually, like I think a week before I get back from Toronto. So this is off at Pasig City. Just take you a brief walkthrough to it. Because our vision really is transparency in what we do. So like I said, I can stand here about for an entire hour and talk about myself and what I do, but it's really different when you actually go out of your way and go there and talk to these people. Just like as Jelaine and Jerome did. So they went all the way to the Philippines and they took a 12-hour bus ride. A 12-hour bus ride to come check out one of our communities and talk to our weavers. So that's the workplace as well. So that will be 100% air conditioned for everybody in the factory. So again, we want to make things as comfortable and as conducive for these people. So you might be asking yourself, so like what do other companies usually do? The people at the bottom is the ones that they usually shortchange. So the people who actually do the hard labor are the ones that they actually shortchange. So quite frankly, we don't shortchange them, and actually, like they make more than I do. So I know this is my full-time job and I get a salary for it, but a principle that us co-founders have is, everybody else before us. So moving forward, like Jerome mentioned earlier, so I know like retail isn't a thing as much here in Canada because online shopping and e-commerce is growing, but we're opening in 6, correct you guys, just 6 for this year because the other 6 are for next year. So we'll be having a mix of pop-up stores, and these pop-up stores are really just bags for now. And then come November, we'll be opening our full flagship stores, which are a minimum of like 100 square meters all over the Philippines. So that's 2 branches in Cebu. To anybody who's been in Cebu, we're opening 2 there. And then 4 in Metro Manila, and this is the general feel of the store. And it's not just bags that we're getting into. So it's just unfortunate that I wasn't able to bring any samples or take any pictures because these are fairly new. But we're getting into shoes, jewelry, and clothing as well. So it's the entire shebang, like from head to toe down to your backpack. You're 100% ethical, Filipino, and hand-woven. Okay, so let's get to the meat of the talk. Jelaine's like giving me that stink eye because I have like 4 minutes left, but I have 9, just so you know. So you said 45, so I'll take 45. I'll share with you like a Filipino concept that we have, which is baon. Baon is like takeaway, but it's not really takeaway. It's really weird to translate. It's like takeaway with love. Right, so it's called pabaon. It's. I hope you. This is the biggest takeaway that I hope you guys can get from this. Not all the technical stuff that might bore you, not all the business stuff, but probably just a couple of things I learned at least. And it's just that the thing is, I think a lot of us in this room want to do something to, something good, right? And it just, for me at least, it was really scary because I'd never had anybody like mentor me through all this stuff. And social entrepreneurship is pretty young in the Philippines. But when I found the right words and when I found the right message, that's when I actually did something. So I do hope, like after this talk, a bunch of you guys will actually think about doing something for wherever you're from. So it doesn't have to be the Philippines. It can be in Toronto, amongst other places that you guys are from. So one thing I learned in kind of work that I do is I had to discover what drives me. So that's the first thing that you guys do. So I like to travel a lot. So this is my co-founding team in Cambodia. And this is up in the jungles in Basilan, where I wasn't even supposed to be. So that was a big security risk. And this is me in Japan. I just had to put it in there because I'm a big Pokemon fan. So I like traveling, cause I like seeing things. You know, I like meeting new people. I like talking to people. So after this, if you wanna hit me up and have a chat, I'm fine with that. So I like talking to people. I like learning new things, and that's what basically drives me. So I realized that's what kept me going in my 6-year stint as a radio jock. Like all the amazing people that you meet, all the amazing things that you see and experience, that's what kept me going. So that's basically what drives me forward. But at the end of it all, let's be realistic. You have to find something that will sustain you. And when I say sustain, that's financially, right? You can't just go off and run off to the Philippines and decide to change the world not knowing how to pay for breakfast. That's not how it works. So one thing I realized getting out of the university was I'm really good at statistics and economics, and as much as I hate math, apparently I'm really good at numbers. So my undergraduate research was, what do you call this? Coming up with statistical metrics for measuring migration impact for small rural towns in the Philippines. So Pidig is the town that my family's from. So I was there for like 2 weeks, and I got this like really bad disease or something. But yeah, that was pretty cool. So I realized I was good at that. And then I applied that in business, basically. So I worked for 2 years with my parents, trying to grow the family business, and that was cool. So I realized that my love for statistics, probabilities, and numbers could actually be used in business. So I think that's my biggest forte. A lot of things are just money for me. So a lot of my partners are first-time entrepreneurs. They've never gotten into business, so they're easily like, "Oh my God, we owe people like millions." I'm like, "That's just numbers. Do something with the sales to like even everything out." That's just advice I can give, like as a business, because sometimes I tell you, you don't just start and expect to be successful. There's a burnout rate at some point. When you start a business, obviously you're gonna lose money for your first couple of months. Because if it was as easy as I want to start a business and make money, then everybody would be rich. So it's not easy, right? And most of the time, businesses actually lose money. And when people like start, "Oh my God, I'm gonna lose money. I'm in debt. Blah blah blah," they don't achieve their full vision. Right? So for me, at least business-wise, it was just a bunch of numbers for me, and ta-da, it worked. Ask my parents, it worked. Everything was just a bunch of numbers for me. So you put two and two together. So again, I like to travel, like to meet people. At the same time, it's good for numbers, so that's what kept like paying for my bills. And then I just found someone other than myself to help. So who were these people? So I met Nanay Jelly off at like a conference in Manila, and she grew up old without marrying. So in their tribe, the Tiboli tribe, it's absolutely a mortal sin not to get married. It's actually like a bad thing. Shame on you from your ancestors for not being married. So it's actually a bad thing. But she didn't get married because she was busy helping the youth in her community. So she built like 2 really big schools, right? And she willed it out of existence because of their weaving enterprise. And they were working with them now. And then just a couple of artisans I meet when I was traveling around the Philippines. I met them and I realized they were making really great things, and people need to see these, and people need to appreciate these, and people need to pay for the right value that it deserves. And at the same time, I found myself really attached to children. So it's usually after I talk to the artisans, like I just chill out with the kids outside, just play tag or whatever. So these are the kinds of people that I meet. And okay, I do help myself. So again, it is a full-time job, and it is a sustainable business because we can provide for the salaries of our staff. But at the same time, it's not just about us; it's about everybody else. So do that. 1 + 1 = 2. Okay. Next is time management. So I'll run you through my day. This is like the craziest 36 hours so far that I can remember. Time management is really important, at least if you want to do social impact on the side. So like I said, we were doing this like part-time because we didn't want to go full-time at it like in one go. So this is my craziest 36 hours. So I had a TV interview in the morning. I took an afternoon flight to Cebu to, what do you call this? To survey some areas for AKABA where we can set up our stores. And then in the evening, I had to fly to Singapore to set up shop there because we have distribution partners in Singapore and the malls there. So we had to deliver the stock and set up the display. So there's like 7 branches in Singapore that sell our stuff. And I had to fly back to Manila the next day for another TV interview. So time management is key. Like you can cram in a lot of stuff in a day, right? And if there's a will, there's a way. So like what Jerome and Jelaine did, so they got on a 12-hour bus to Ilocos, and we were on them with that for that trip. And then, so they arrived in the morning, and what we usually do is after everything, we just head back to the city. at night, and then arrive 12 hours later, so that's the morning, and just show up for work without taking a shower. So I know that's terrible, but like if there's a will, there's a way, and that's how it is, right? One thing I like to share with you guys is when doing social impact, you have to focus on the end and not the means. This we had to learn the hard way. So you guys want to know why we named it AKABA? Do you want the press release or the actual story? Oh, okay. That's terrible. Okay, so the press release. Let's start with the press release. The press release is Ilocano. It's Ilocano for wide and big because our bags are wide and big, but not really. So we wanted to work with abaka. We wanted to work with natural fibers. That's why AKABA, abaka. Abaka is a natural fiber that's grown in the Philippines like hemp, but not weed hemp, like hemp. And then they weave that into a basket. So we wanted to use that for like fabric. And then we realized it was itchy and it really wasn't working. But then we were spending a lot of money on R&D because we were working with private research groups on how to make it softer, and it just really wouldn't happen. And then we stepped back and realized that we were too focused on the means, that we weren't really doing what we wanted to do, which is provide income for weavers, right? So the thing is, a lot of people are focused on the means and how to do it, right? And we were wasting around like 4 months of our good time trying to make it happen, but it really wasn't happening. So we had to step back and realize that it really wasn't working, and we had to do something about it. So if we were very like stubborn about it, maybe AKABA could have not have existed. So part of you has to also be very realistic about things. When you're doing social impact work, like you're not Jesus. You can't just go in there and try to make everything perfect. Sometimes things just doesn't work, and you have to accept that. But then think of alternative ways to get there. Okay, never give up on the poor. This is usually where I get teary-eyed, but I hope not this time. So like I said, a lot of the people that we're working with in the locals have never had like a job or no work ethic whatsoever. And we trained somewhere close to 30, and now they're down to 8. And then maybe a couple 3 left. And you know what? It was easy for to judge. Like, I think my initial reflex was, what's wrong with them? What's their problem? I'm giving you a job. I'm providing for everything. I'm paying for everything. All you have to do is show up for work, right? And I guess it was really easy for me to judge the first time I experienced it and just say, oh my God, they're poor for a reason, maybe because they're lazy, right? And then I come to realize in the work that I do that poverty isn't like a resource thing. It's not even a hard work thing. Sometimes it's just mindset. And it's really hard to change that, right? Some of these people have given up in life in general. They have no concept of hard work because they feel like working hard won't get you anywhere. Because some of them, even if they've never had a job their entire lives, have been working hard and have been trying for like 30 years to get a job and stable income, and it's still not working. So I came to realize that, you know what? Sometimes, like, you have to like really sit down and understand why, right? And just never give up, I guess. Especially with these kinds of people. So again, it's easy for us to say that, for example, for people that support the drug war, right, in the Philippines, and there's a sizable group. It's easy for us to say that they get into drugs, and that they're worthless and they're useless, right? And then what if you meet someone who was a druggie because sexually abused by an uncle or something, right? It's hard to generalize. So again, never give up. The fact that, for example, for me at least, I'm standing here and I'm in Toronto on a holiday, like, I'm more privileged. And a lot of people take that for granted. And maybe a couple more, go back to why you started. It's really crazy, your startup journey. So like I said, you were working off my mom's like ground floor at her big warehouse for candy. Sometimes it gets really tiring. Sometimes it gets really lonely. But then again, like I said, I go back to why I started this in the first place, why I gave up like a ton of money being a lawyer, or why I turned down like really hefty job offers from an Apple office in Singapore and like a Google venture supported startup in the Philippines. Sometimes I just go back to, well, why not now, right? Because a lot of people say, okay, I'll get rich now and then help the poor later. And sometimes I feel like I should have done that. But I always tell myself, well, okay, I got a head start to helping the poor, so I get more impact. Last is, for anything that you do, really, whether it's a social enterprise or just work in general, one thing I've learned is to have fun and not take it too seriously sometimes. So this is us in Indonesia having fun, and this is us in Malaysia having more fun. These are my interns in Ilocos Norte having much more fun than they're supposed to have because they were supposed to be working. This is us wearing a dress in Myanmar. It's a longji. And this is us with our investors from Germany and Singapore on top of horses in the Philippines. I know it's crazy. But behind it all, it was after a long day of work, or it was before a long day of work, and after doing a lot of things, you know. So we always find time to keep ourselves sane. So that's about it. I have two more points before I end. Why the Philippines? For me, at least, it's really, well, I can't be general, but why the Philippines? Well, because I'm Filipino, right? And I had it easy. I had it easy, you know. My parents worked really hard to send me to a really good school. So I went to a private school all the way up to college, to the university. Um, Everybody else in the Philippines didn't have it easy. And who's going to help them? I'm sure like a hundred years of Philippine independence and relying on the government absolutely did not work. So who else but us, right? And I just perfectly feel like there's nothing wrong with that. So I'm gonna point it back to you guys, right? Empowerment is you. That's what Cambio Market is all about. So I'm pointing at you people, right? Go do your thing. Go do your thing. Keep yourself happy. But always remember, it's not mutually exclusive, you know, helping yourself and helping others. I hope you guys find that, and I hope a lot of more people find that. At least in my country, we need that. Before I end, here's a quick video of the team back in the Philippines. They really wanted to say hi, 'cause they couldn't make it, so here you go.
3, 2, 1, go.
Mabuhay! Hello, my name is Alex. I'm the CFO and co-founder.
Hi, my name is Daniel. I'm a founder and COO.
Hi, my name is Christine and I'm the CMO and co-founder.
Hi, I'm Yana, the Digital Marketing Officer.
Hi, I'm Kyla Aboy, the graphic designer. We are Team AKABA, and thank you so much for attending this talk.
We're really sorry we can't be with you guys today, but we're really honored to be featured in today's event.
We really hope you like our story and we would appreciate it if you make it yours too.
Support us by liking our Facebook and Instagram.
And shout out to Jelena and Jerome from Cambio Market. Thank you for having us.
Maraming salamat.
So that was half of my team, because the other half was in the office and the factory that I was talking to you about, setting everything up. But yeah, thank you for having me. These are my contact details. I'll be around until 9. I'd love to talk to each and every one of you if I can and if I have the time. So thanks.
Thank you. Yay, thank you, EJ. How was it? How are you guys feeling? Good? Yeah? Yeah? We'll do a quick Q&A. I think we have about 10 minutes time for some questions. Is it too hot? Are you guys like okay? Because we added an extra fan. Everyone's good? Okay. So we got some time for some questions. Lauren will be running with, oh, there you go. Yay, my team is so good. Okay, so Lauren will be running. Yeah, okay. Woo.
I'll run back. Okay, who has a question? Okay, back.
Hi. Hi, EJ. Name is Edward. Love the startup that you've started in the Philippines. Great thing you got going. I was very caught by that offer that you gave to your employees. You managed to give them insurance, and I'm just wondering, from a technical side, financially, how do you work that? How do you allocate your budget to that?
Hi, Edward. Thanks for that question. So, like I said, healthcare is like really messy in the Philippines. So, this is how we do it. So, for every weaver that we have a maximum allocation per annum, right? So, annually we allocate X amount of money per weaver, and it also depends on where they are, because hospitals cost differently depending on where you are. So, the more remote cities definitely cheaper, but as close as you get to Metro Manila, that gets more expensive. So, we have that set aside annually. And if they don't use it, we compound it, right? So we've been going around for 3 years, but we've been implementing the program for around a year and a half. So well, cause we just expanded to other parts of the Philippines just back in like 2015, very late 2015. So aside from that, we also get them a government healthcare plan. It's called PhilHealth, so that they also have a certain limit of healthcare claims that they can achieve. And then one thing we do is for some of our beneficiaries, and they don't know this because there's a government service called the 4Ps, Pangtawid Pamilya program or something like that. So it's like a stipend that they receive from the government if they are situated way below the poverty line. So there are indicators that the government looks at. Sometimes there are some beneficiaries that are eligible for that program, but they don't have the documentation for it. Like they don't have a birth certificate. They don't, I mean, like their father didn't sign on their birth certificate, so they don't have a father amongst that, legally, basically. So what we do is we provide legal assistance. So our company lawyer comes in and helps them sort out their legal documents, and we have them apply for the program as well. So it really depends. It's a case-to-case basis. But yeah, like one thing that we insist on is registering their children to, okay, I'm not sure if it's a thing, but there's some people that are not pro-vaccination. But again, when you're in the Philippines, vaccination is really important. So we insist that all the children, up to the grandchildren of our weavers, are at least vaccinated. And then, yeah, so if they get to the hospital, they're registered as dependents in the government insurance program, so their kids are also part of that. So if they max out their limit for the government, that's when we come in, and then that's when we cash out. So we're not very strict with it. So there was this one time, if I can share you the story, unfortunately I wasn't able to share it earlier. There was this one weaver that had like non-cancerous like lumps all over her body. And it was getting really bad because they were everywhere. And then we were forcing to take her to the hospital. And she honestly just didn't want to, right? Because it was an entirely foreign concept to her, and she had healthcare and everything. She just didn't want to. And she was telling me it was cheaper to buy a casket than to go to the hospital. She was asking me to buy her a casket instead. That's terrible. But yeah, so we took her to the hospital anyway, kicking and screaming. And she was able to get through that. And 2 months after, her son got dengue. So it's like malaria. And the son was fully covered by the program. So there. Oh no, we pay for the premium, so we absorb the premium. Yeah, it's part of their package.
Thanks. Anyone else? Oh, we have a second mic. Nice.
Hey, I guess I'm curious about how it was received in the Philippines, because like growing up there, I was not aware that we had like a really diverse like weaving industry. And like now that I'm in Toronto, I just find it amazing that it's like, oh my God, there's all these different like there's such a rich history behind it. So I kind of want to find out more about, was that decision to really focus on the different cultural lines, like how important was that to you starting the business?
Okay. So you grew up in the Philippines? Hello, where'd you stay? Are you from the city? Manila. Oh, me too. Hey, traffic's bad, right? Okay. Okay. So I guess through my exposure and traveling with my parents, they would always go to Thailand. Thailand is a very good template for social enterprise and how they can actually bring people out of poverty. So Thailand is really good in a way that it supports the crafts of ethnic minorities, and they subsidize for their participation in trade shows and export markets. And they regulate how much artisans are actually paid, right? So they have a legal definition of like fair. So we don't have that in the Philippines. We don't have much in the Philippines anyway, at least in like a legal regulation for social impact. Right, so I took a cue off of what I saw from a fair that my dad brought me to. So it was like a textile fair, and I was like, well, because I knew about Inabel. Again, I'm Ilocano, so like actually the initial vision was just to highlight Ilocano weaving, right? And then I guess word got around in the weaving communities, and HABI, the Philippine Textile Council, and the PTRI, the Philippine Textile Research Institute, and the Department of Science and Technology in the government, and they knew about the work that we were doing in Ilocos. So all these other communities, again from like Mindanao and Iloilo and Isabela, would come up to us and ask if we can replicate the model to their provinces. So honestly, even I didn't know about it, like until like they went up to me and asked for our help. So that's pretty cool, and that says a lot. So I'm from the Philippines. I'm Filipino. I grew up there, and I honestly didn't know about it. right? And then I was also doing my research on how like Filipino designers would just like bring all of these to the U.S. and have like runway shows in New York and like Paris and whatever. And I like, why don't I know about this? So I wanted to bridge that like knowledge gap first locally. So I wanted to introduce products, for example, that were very digestible. So as you can see with the design, um, it's something that you would use on a daily basis, right? So it's not too out there, you know. It's something that people, the general public, could be more comfortable with. See, the problem with marketing to niche is quantity. When you're dealing with weavers and artisans, that's how they feed their families. So the more fabric they weave, the more income they get. And when you're dealing with like niche markets, like high-end, limited quantity stuff, you're dealing with like 1 yard of fabric that's barely enough to put food on the table. So the way I saw it, I had to produce something that was commercially viable. So it had to be, of course, it had to be hand-woven ethnic, but at the same time, I had to find a balance between commercially viable. So I can order like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of yards per community. That way, I'm ensured that they have a steady income, and that's enough to actually pay for the bills. So that's one thing. So that's why I make the decision. I was heavily inspired by what I was seeing overseas and the social impact that it was doing, and yeah, I guess it just grew organically. So it's really funny. Even I didn't know like we have all of that in the Philippines. I just know about my blankets and that's it. But yeah, it has been very enriching. And yeah, like I said, I guess that says a lot about like our knowledge of our culture, even for us back home. You have questions for Jeline? You can probably ask her stuff. Hi, Francis. Hi, Francis.
Thank you for your talk. It was really impressive. How do you approach like international markets with a product that's locally made in the Philippines? I'm Filipino and I'm passionate about it, but if you're selling to a Canadian market, for example, or another outside of the Philippines market, how do you kind of market your products so that they identify with the product as well? And then the other question, sorry, I'm really curious. How do you price it so that you can actually pay your weavers as much, but not price yourself out of the market? So someone like me would still be able to afford a bag, but then you can pay your weavers as much as you can.
Let's start with the first. I kind of lost it. So the first one was
how do you cater to like?
How do I cater to the international market? So first is design. Just look at trends, really. What's selling? And a lot of it is magazine reading for me and consultations with. So there's a government arm. It's called SciTem. It's the tourist, like the, what do you call this? The Small Industry Promotion Board. And they have design services and they have export experts that you can consult with, and it's a free service by the government. So you really figure out what you have and what the market wants, and then you find the balance in between. So like I said, whatever's selling now are those kinds of bags, right? And what I have is this fabric. So how can I use it in a way that it's not too ethnic? So that's the thing, not too ethnic. Something that I can take with me to the office, or something that I can take to school without like standing out too much, and things like that. So we put those things into consideration. Second is storytelling. So in the Philippines, it's relatively easier. So when you talk about islands, they kind of know where it is, and when you talk about ethnic groups, they kind of know who they are. So for us, so we have a lot of things we make a lot of things accessible to our customers. So first is when you buy a bag, there's actually like contact details at the back. So, and at the same time, there's an information and care card. But then if there's something that we didn't cover, you feel free to get in touch with us, and then we'll let you know. We'll try to answer your questions. Oh yeah, and also the story of the weave. So for example, there's some fabrics that are inspired by nature. So you'll see some are like inspired by bamboo and some by mountains. And I can run it through you guys one by one if you'd like when I'm stationed there later. Second is pricing. Okay, so at the start, we were doing 100% hand-woven bags, and then we realized that weavers can only weave a certain amount of bags, and we couldn't meet the demand. So on a businessman's perspective, when you can't meet the demand, that's a big problem for you, because first of all, you can't grow your business. So that's when we decided to use mixed media. So that's when we started mixing like cotton canvas and polyester lining, and then probably minimum 30 to 50% hand woven fabric on the bag. Because before, actually, there's some bags there that are 100% hand woven. So we had to make the 100% hand woven bag work, we had to raise the price points to control the demand, and then we made something more accessible, which was the mixed media bags that we have now. I know it's really businessy and stuff, and it's really boring, but that's how it is.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your questions. Thank you so much to EJ. Can we give another round of applause? Thank you so much. I actually feel kind of bad because EJ is here on vacation with his family, who are over here, and we kind of interrupted their vacation to like force him to come here. So really, really hugely appreciate it. I have a slide. Yes, and first, so I'd really love to also thank all of our food partners. Did you guys enjoy the food? Yeah? Yeah, thank you. So all of our partners here today, they're all really small entrepreneurs themselves, really small business owners here in Toronto. And they worked, they've been really awesome and have come here on a lot of them work full-time jobs as well. And they came here and took time out of their evening as well. So really, really hugely appreciate them. Rachi and Susan with Filipino fusion desserts, the cannolis, you gotta try them. I haven't tried it yet, but they look really good. We have B with Las Piñas Cocina. We have Carl from Merienda. We had Diona Joyce from Canto. So we really, really are thankful to have them. And also thanking just our community partners. Yay. So we have Kapisanan. So we have Nicole, Cecil, and Danica from Kapisanan here today, and Kultura as well. And then we have Ryerson Social Venture Zone, who are community partners with us, which is so amazing to have such awesome just like support here in Toronto. So we're really, really thankful. And we do have giveaways. So I know you guys still there's still so much food left, and I know you guys still want to get some more, but we do have giveaways right now. So we're gonna do a raffle. So if I could have Nicole up here to announce the winner of the Kultura food passport. Yay. Yay, Nicole! Yay.
Hi, hello, everyone. Hi, Jay, so nice to meet you. Are you here until August 13th? All right, well then. We'll talk. Okay, so, okay. Upon arrival, Joanne and Jerome generously offered Kapisanan the opportunity to speak on stage and to talk a little bit about Kapisanan and Kultura. And as much as I am aspiring to be a stand-up comic after my work with Kapisanan, I actually am not fond of public speaking. I get really long-winded and sweaty. My heart's racing right now. But the one really important thing that my mentor, a Filipino woman, taught me is that is to always take the mic. So here I am taking the mic. Yeah, and so my name's Nikki. I'm the executive director at Kapisanan Philippine Center for Arts and Culture. We're based in Toronto. We're a youth-led charity that empowers and engages Filipino youth of all generations, and we use the arts. And Kapisanan is a brave space where Filipino youth can explore their cultural identity, find a sense of belonging, and define what it means to be Filipino on their own terms. And we run really cool programming. We offer free mentorship programs for Filipino youth, but we also exist for the broader community in Toronto. And so Kultura is one of our projects, and we're in our 12th year. It's entirely youth-led, volunteer-driven, and it's a celebration of Filipino culture through the lens of young Filipinos in the diaspora. And so it's multidisciplinary. There's a lot of things going on. On the 13th, so it runs from August 10th to 13th. On the 13th, there's going to be lots of food. And actually, two of the vendors here will be at Kultura, Canto, and Filipino Fusion Desserts. We're really happy to have them. And Merienda and Las Piñas has also been at Kultura. And what we're raffling today is free food. So you get a VIP passport, very limited. We only offer it to our sponsors and donors. So you're part of the elite, I guess. I don't know. And I just want to invite Cecil. Where's Danica? Oh, She doesn't like public speaking either. I don't like public speaking either, and I'm here, Danica. Okay. Anyway, Cecil, what we also do is create a platform for young Filipinos to have a voice. So it's, I'm just gonna pass it over and have Cecil. What? No, take the mic. Take the mic. So who's our winner? Oh wait. Do you want to talk about the passport? Okay. It's okay. It's all right. So the passport gives you 1 free dish from each participating food vendor at Kultura. There are 8 food vendors. You also get a line bypass. So it's pretty good prize. Who's our winner? Army is our winner. Congratulations, Army. So actually the passports are not in print yet. But you can pick it up at our office, or you can also just come to our festival and pick it up at the Kapisanan admin booth, and then you get access to free Filipino food. Sound good? All right, congratulations. And also, I just want to commend EJ. Thank you for the work that you do. No, you know what? In Toronto, the definition of youth is 29 and younger. So you're still youth. I'm 28. I'm holding on to that title as much as I can. But a lot of the work we do is about role models and mentorship, and you are an exemplar of the kind of role model that we'd like to see. So yeah, let's talk. Okay.
Thank you, Nicole. Awesome. And now we have we will announce the winner of our exciting giveaway. The winner of our AKABA bag. Jerome has it. Or here's the bag. First of all, let me showcase this beautiful bag. Do you want to tell us quickly the story of this weave? And then we'll announce the winner, because I know you guys are hungry.
Okay, so this is called Ramit from Oriental Mindoro. They're made by an ethnic minority, a peace-loving Mangyans. They're known for their basket weaves. One thing they're not much known for is their fabric, and it's really incredible. So the defining trait of Mangyan weaving is the fine, really small geometric patterns. And you see the discipline in there, because the smaller the pattern, the harder it is to make. And the more patterns there are, so as you can see, it's all lined up. That's one additional pedal that they have to step on. And these are woven on backstrap looms, so these actually take forever to make. And yeah, and it's really cool. So this backpack is a laptop bag with two pockets in it. One for a laptop that can fit up to 15-inch screen, and a main compartment for all your other stuff. Do I just draw it? Hello, Max Santiago. Is he your brother? Your dad? That is okay. Hello, hi, Jalene's dad. Maybe we can grab another one. Yeah? Okay, yeah, let's grab another bag. Hey, kawawa naman eh. One of the totes maybe for the ladies. Yeah, we have a spare one. So, yeah. You get all that. No. How I wish I had to pay an extra $50 for my hand carry, because I bought too much Pop-Tarts, by the way. So TSA stopped me, and they wouldn't believe me. They asked me if I was bringing contraband and stuff, and I said no. And then they opened my bag anyway, and before opening it, they were asking me what's inside. So I said 10 boxes of Pop-Tarts, 4 packs of Oreos, 2 bags of chocolate pretzels from Trader Joe's, and 3 boxes of Twinkies. So I don't know how it fit, but it did, because I took the Pop-Tarts out of the box. And yeah, so she opens it up and she just starts giggling. And she was like, I'm upset you're not sharing. So yeah, that's my TSA story. I got stopped over at the airport. Jasmine Rain, congratulations. Oh, hey, Jasmine. Oh, you can give it back if you like. Okay, so that thing is from Isabela. It's a mountain province in the Philippines, pretty much close to Baguio. That's called Inabel. The pattern is called mata-mata, which is basically Tagalog for eyes. So it comes with a mini clutch and a coin purse. So there.
Thank you, guys. Awesome. And, oopsie. Back? Oh no. Okay, sorry. Sorry, this is supposed to be a big end off, and then I just messed it up. So we really just want to thank all of you, especially for being here. Like seriously, we put this event together, and I had nightmares for weeks because I was like, oh my god, no one's gonna come. No one. We're just doing this. So it's really so amazing that this event sold out, and that there's like so many of you from from the Filipino community, from the sustainable fashion community, the startup communities, like so many different people that are all here to just celebrate and learn and come together, and that's so just inspiring and overwhelming, really. So thank you so much for you all for coming here and for really just being like great, awesome people. The vibe here tonight was just so great. So thank you so much, and especially thank you as well to our volunteers who we kind of dragged here for, who are just here. Thank you so much. Yeah, and thank you to all of you. And we have, so also just like stay in touch. Thank you so much for coming. Yeah, we have our website and all our social media. And all of our partners, most of our food partners are still here. And there's like actually a ton of food because it wouldn't be a Filipino event without too much food. So make sure you like get some more food and everything and enjoy yourselves. So, oh yes. And our pop-up as well will still be open until 9. So, yay, thank you so much.